Now we're on to sort of practical stuff, best practices. Tom W says, what are the best techniques and paints when modifying and repainting character options TARDISes? What is your opinion on the Jodie Whittaker exterior? And actually, Simon Bowser also says pretty much the same thing, asking, what do you recommend for source material when modifying a CO box? Answering the Jodie Whittaker TARDIS exterior, are you talking about the actual prop or are you talking about the toy? Either way, no comment. Because no comment is best I can say that. But if you're talking about, I mean, both of you, both Tom and Simon, you're both talking really about modifying your TARDISes, which is fantastic. I love seeing people do that. So basically, I guess you're asking, what's my advice if you're going to do it? Well, do it for a start, just start. But in terms of materials, I see quite a lot of people modifying their TARDISes. Now, that's great. But I do have a slight, I don't want to say an issue because it sounds negative, it's not. If you modify your plastic TARDIS with something like balsa wood or cardboard or foam core, which is polystyrene in between a sandwich of two bits of very thin card, because that is not plastic and it's a completely different material from the toy, you can always tell. You can always see the difference. You can also see the joins, the glue lines. I know it's cheap, and it's easy and it's easy to come by, but I would recommend not doing that. I mean, you can. I'm not saying you can't produce decent results, but I would always recommend buying plastic card. It's white styrene plastic. It's called. It's HIPS, high impact polystyrene plastic. You can buy it from any craft store or any hobby shop, and the best thing about that it's plastic, and it cuts really easy. It comes in all sorts of sizes and shapes and thicknesses. You can. The best thing about it, because it is a plastic, you can use something like solvent weld or solvent cement. Again, you can get that from any hobby shop, and you can add these additions to your toys and have them be able to blend in really well. So not only will they stick on, they're not just stuck on like a mechanical joint like super glue. You stick something on, you can break it off. You put this plastic on and you solvent weld it. You are welding it. It becomes part of the plastic. And of course, the great thing about that is you can texture it, you can blend it in with fillers and what have you. And it's really versatile stuff. So I'd highly recommend you use plastic card for your modifications. It's not that expensive either. It's only about a couple of quid for an A4 sheet. So yeah, use plastic all the way. It's not that difficult. And you can cut it with a standard craft knife. And if you go really thin, you can go with scissors. In terms of paint, primers, like the grey undercoats, I would always go for aerosol stuff. I mean, you can use, if you've got an airbrush paints, but I find that automotive spray paints are the best. If you're in the UK, Halfords. If you're in the US or anywhere else, God knows, but I'm sure you'll find some decent stuff. The one recommendation that I would make in terms of spray paints is Rust-Oleum, and by recommendation, I recommend that you don't use Rust-Oleum. Excuse me. I'm not a big fan of Rust-Oleum at all. I don't think it's very good paint. It goes on way too thick. The times I've used it, the failure rate on the spray is quite high. It's very hit and miss. It either goes on lumpy or it starts to orange peel. It reacts to virtually everything, so I'm not a big fan of Rust-Oleum. I'm willing to have my conception of them changed if they want to send me stuff, but I doubt they will. But no, I'd always say proper spray paint. Automotive, it's a bit more expensive. For about 300 or it might even be 500 mils, it's about £9 or £10. But you go cheap, you get cheap results. So that's just the way it is. In terms of actual top coats, anything really. I mean, I've seen people use household paint, which you would need to thin it down. I wouldn't really recommend it. I'm not saying it's impossible. You can use that stuff. But I would suggest using either Humbrol. I mean, Humbrol do their enamels. If you're going to use enamels, my issue with those is if you go for a gloss, it's very difficult to lay down nicely and smoothly. It often will streak. Whereas something like a matte doesn't do that. So I'd recommend, enamel mattes or even better, acrylics. Now, Humbrol and Tamiya both do acrylics. You can brush paint those on, or if you've got an airbrush, you can airbrush those on. You can use those as block basing colours. The other tip I would say is don't keep relying on all the different shades, because Tamiya and Humbrol and all the other people, Games Workshop, they have like 100 reds, 100 yellows, 1,000 blues. Just mix your own colours up. You only need a handful of different primary colours and you can start making all the second and tertiary colours. Just make up your own style. I mean, some colours you can use straight out and they're fine, straight out of the tub. But I would recommend just mixing your own colours up. You could also use artist acrylics. I use those a lot, mainly for weathering. So yeah, those are the things that I would suggest for that. So if you want any other tips, just look at my videos. Oh, and there we go. The next question is from Toybox of Wrestling again. Any tips and tricks that you tend to use for planning models? You also ask about construction as well. Again, I'll just say go and look at some of my old videos for tips and tricks. I mean, I would like to do some more videos on physical tips and tricks. But in terms of planning models, the way I plan any build is like a chess game. You don't just plan one step ahead, you plan multiple steps ahead. You want to sort of foresee any problems down the line. So if you can prepare yourself for that up front before you've even picked up a piece of plastic, then you're fully prepared. But yeah, beyond that, it's just plan. I can't stress that enough. You have to plan. Sometimes things will go wrong, but you just have to, deal with it as and when it comes. So yeah, but go back and look at some of my build videos. There's loads of tips and tricks in there. Okay, moving swiftly on. Oh gosh, yes, the Bear UK one. One of the best questions, actually. Your question is, what do you do if during a build something goes wrong? Do you start again on that part of the build that you're working on, or do you look for a way to fix it without destroying the progress? I hate to use the word bodge because that implies poor workmanship, but would you creatively repair or modify the error in some ways? Or would you start over? You have to take it on its merits. Like I said just a moment ago, you have to try and pre-plan everything to try and avert those problems. Now, occasionally, yes, you do get something that goes drastically wrong. Now, the first tip I would say, when something like that happens, you're full of emotions going, oh my God, it's all going wrong. Walk away from it, because you want those emotions to subside. So walk away from the thing. Go and take a walk, go and have a drink, do whatever you need to. And come back to it with a fresh eye where you can look at this thing logically without emotion and address the situation. There are times, just say for example, you're working on something and you drop it on the floor and it's for a client and this thing's shattered to pieces. That's happened before actually, where we had virtually no time to build another one. So you would piece it back together as best you possibly can. You bridge any breaks, you make sure it has to remain structurally safe. Cosmetically it's going to look awful, but so you try to dress it up as much as you possibly can. But that's an extreme circumstance. If you're working on something and you damage it, say, you like crack a corner, do you rebuild that? Well, that's what God invented filler for. Yes, it really depends on how badly is it damaged. If it's a bit damaged and you can get away with a bit of filler, there's nothing wrong with that. So long as what you're repairing is repaired underneath, it's not going to fall apart any further. Cosmetically, you can hide it. It doesn't really matter at all. Because at the end of the day, it's how it looks is what matters the most. Yeah, things do go wrong though, and you have to just handle that. I mean, I can sort of give you loads of examples. What can I tell you? Okay, let's give you a couple of TARDIS examples. I was doing a commission about 18 months ago. It was reconfiguring a toy into a photographic model, and the guy wanted me to put some electronics in. So I ordered these LEDs, and they were ordered specifically because of the type of LEDs they were. And these things just didn't turn up, and weeks went by, and I was desperately waiting for these damn things to turn up. And then I noticed where they came from. They were pretending they were stocked in London, and they weren't. They're actually in China. And I was waiting, these things just didn't turn up. So I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to go and buy some again now from the UK. And when I went to order them, I could not think, excuse me, why did I buy these specific ones previously? I just couldn't remember. So I just bought similar ones from the UK, and they turned up, and yep, I put them inside the model, and it was all fine and dandy. sealed the roof in because it had to be done that way, and I painted the whole thing up, and I was literally 2 days away from delivering this thing, and I just completed the model, and I looked and thought, this is brilliant. Then I went to close the doors and couldn't, because the LEDs were poking too far down and jammed the doors open, and I panicked. I truly went into panic mode, sweating like a pig on heat. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've got to rip these things out and rip the roof apart, which means if I rip the roof apart, I've got to take all the paint off and then fix this problem and then put it all back together again. And that would take about a week, but I've only got 2 days. I'm hand delivering this thing in 2 days. What am I going to do? So what I did was, took a breath, looked at it and thought, okay, I need to make these LEDs smaller. So with bated breath, I got my Dremel out and the little spinny rotary tool, rotary end, the little grinder. I switched the lights on so I could see, and I very slowly ground these LEDs down. And I was praying that I didn't touch the internal electrics, because if I did, I would have blown the whole lot. So very carefully, I ground the LEDs back, and thank Christ, but the doors finally shut and the electronics still worked. So yeah, that was a good one. Another one was a full-size TARDIS prop that we're doing for EastEnders, and I was working on a team for that, and I wasn't like the lead or anything, my boss was. And as we were building this thing, I suddenly noticed, now bearing in mind we had 20 minutes before the cameras came to us for those scenes involving the TARDIS. Don't ask why it was there, go and look it up. So I was looking at this TARDIS and thinking, this doesn't look right. And I just sort of stared at it a bit more and thought, Christ, the way it was going together, it was fiberglass panels wrapped around an internal sort of framework stroke box. Now, these two elements have been made independently of each other. We were working on the fiberglass panels and somebody else was working on the box. Now, I don't know where the guy who was working on the wooden box bit got his measurements from, but it was too narrow. So when we put the walls on and then the corner posts were too close to each other, they're too far in. And I noticed very quickly that the sign box element, this section here on this full-size prop, wouldn't fit. And I had to say stop to everyone. Now my boss was panicking because we were running out of time. And I said, look, if we carry on, we're going to cock up the entire production, that we're going to have no TARDIS to film with. And he said, why? So I held up this sign box and said, look, it will not fit into place. And if that won't fit into place, the front one won't, the doors won't shut, and the roof won't fit on. So he started panicking. And I said to him, look, do you trust me? Bearing in mind that I know TARDIS is inside out. And he said, yes. I said, would you let me lead this entire thing and do everything I say, even if it sounds mad? And he said, yes, as long as it gets done. So I said, right, rip this thing to bits. And I got the circular saw, I started cutting bits off of the wooden interior box. We pulled the thing out, screwed the post back in, put the sign boxes on, and we managed to get this thing done. And there are shots of me, literally just before the cameras were rolling, painting it. Now, had I not spoken up and said about this, we would have ruined that entire shoot. And this was for like a big special. It was a big, I don't know, it was some big Easter special. So, yeah, sometimes things go wrong and you just have to deal with it. But, yeah, that's how it is. Just try and fix it is the best thing that I can say to you. That's what happens. Right, okay, so it looks like we're on to general questions, but thank you, The Bear UK. That was a fantastic question. So, Mark Johnson is asking, he says, I, like many others, I imagine, never get tired of seeing TARDIS builds or Doctor Who content on your channel, but what other type of content would you really like to showcase but are worried might put people off? Yeah, I must admit, the Doctor Who content, I honestly, I've never wanted it to take over, but people like that stuff. Now, I've been aware of this for years. I mean, I used to run a blog, and if I talked about anything other than Doctor Who, it would gain no traction whatsoever. No one would be interested, and I'm fine with that. If people only come to me for one reason, then fair dues, that's their lookout. But I would write stuff not about Doctor Who, and then just write in the last paragraph, oh, and I like the TARDIS. And people would respond to just that one sentence and ignore everything I'd said before. And this applies also to this channel. I mean, go back and look through my videos. There are some non-Doctor Who videos that they barely got a couple of hundred views. look, I don't want to say I'm fine with that, but I understand that that's the nature of the beast. I mean, I've even built a couple of Doctor Who projects where no one's interested in that either. Pterodactyl mind control device. I think that's got barely 800 to 900 views, and that's one of the oldest videos on there. People like what they want, and they want what they like, and I can't change that. All I can do is just make stuff that I want. But yeah, there are a load of non-Doctor Who things I'd love to build. I mean, I've got loads of Star Wars stuff that I would like to make. But the problem with replicating pre-existing items, as much as I find that really good, I really do enjoy doing that. It's all the research, what's the right parts, how big is it, should it be like this or like that. I mean, that's all very, very interesting. But artistically, it's bereft of any artistic content. There's nothing. There's no expression involved. So you're just repeating something that somebody else made. I mean, what I would really like to do is build my own stuff. I've got spaceship designs I'd love to build, my own designs. I'd like to build some cityscapes or buildings, my own hand props. And also I'd love to do a few videos on techniques, how to use plastic art, how to fiberglass, how to create rust or cobwebs, things like that. Just things that are translatable across the board because, yes, I focus on props and models, but there's people who do wargaming and terraining and all that sort of stuff. And I often see people talking about this, you can only use this stuff on this particular thing. No. Everything I talk about can be used either on a full-size prop or a tiny, tiny miniature of this sort of size. It's just about scaling it up and down. So, yeah, I mean, techniques and other, my own projects I'd like to do. But whether people want to see that, I don't know. So far, when I've erred away from that sort of thing, the traction has been very small. But maybe if I produce more of these things, it might get a bit more traction. But, I used to joke when I did the blog to my wife, if it's not Doctor Who, I'm not watching. So, and I get that. People can't be interested in everything. It's a bit like showing photographs of your holiday to friends. They don't care. They're not really interested in it. You might be interested in it, but they're not. And they'll just feign interest or just completely ignore you. But yeah, that's that. But thank you very much for that question. So maybe in the future I will be doing others. And I do want to do other stuff. My old friend Doctor Who 8. You're asking a question that I suppose would be quite good because I still get questions on this. Do you have enough room now at your new house for a full-size TARDIS and workshop? Short answer is no. Slightly longer answer is no, because I'm living in the house that I used to live in. I don't know how many of you would know, but last summer we were evicted from our rental of 15 years. It was a bit of a horrible experience. We were given 8 weeks to leave because basically my landlord wanted to sell up. We don't quite know why, but he wanted to sell up. And we thought it was we had to be out within 8 weeks. No, that wasn't true at all. It was he wants the new owners to be moving in within 8 weeks. So that kind of really put the pressure on. And anyone who's been out house hunting will know 8 weeks is nothing. You will never find a house in 8 weeks. For us personally, we'd lived in this place for 15 years and our rent had never, ever, thankfully gone up. We were blessed in that regard. But in that 15 years, all the other houses in the area and across the world, their prices had gone up in that period. So to get another house of a similar stature to the one we were living in, we would be paying up to £700 a month rent more. Now, there was no way we could afford that, and my wife and I calculated that within about 9 months, we would have burned through all our savings that we'd been saving together as a deposit for a house. So the idea of renting locally was out the window. We did consider moving elsewhere in the country, but to be honest, look, my kids go to school here, they've got their friends, they've got their school. My wife has friends here. To be honest, I don't have any friends around here. All my friends are scattered around the country. I never see them. But I might speak to them on the phone occasionally. So from my perspective, it didn't really matter. But from everybody else's, it did matter. And I felt quite conscientious, particularly about my kids and their friends and their school, that we should stay. So it kind of pushed us into the idea of buying a place. So we desperately looked for somewhere that we could move into. And we found this one place. It was brilliant. It had 3 bedrooms. There was a room that my wife could have used for her home office, and it had a fantastic workshop. I mean, it was truly amazing. I mean, it had 4 rooms. One room was about the size of a double garage. Excuse me. And the other room, which was the main workshop, was so big, I calculated that you could have 30 TARDISes fully assembled in 6 rows of 5. And even then you'd have room above it and room to walk around these things. But the problem was the seller wanted a premium price for it. He'd seen his neighbouring house sell for this same figure. The only difference between the neighbouring house and this house was the neighbour's house you could walk into and not have to do anything for the first 10, maybe 15 years because they just renovated the whole thing. The house that we were looking at had not been touched since 1970. So it was pretty run down. It needed a new roof. The back end was falling off. The bricks were destroyed by the guttering that had failed, so the bricks were wet through. There were cracks running through it. The electricity needed to be ripped out. All the electrical power needed to be ripped out and put in again. The heating needed to be replaced. You wouldn't have got a mortgage on it, to be honest, and I tried to explain that to the vendor. The workshop, it was not secure. It was open to the elements. The roof needed replacing. Just the garage alone, we calculated about £15,000 just to get that secure and weathertight. In terms of the house itself and the garage, it was somewhere between £150,000 ish, either up and down from that, just to get the house up to code. But the base bottom problem line with this house was, as it stood, you would never get a mortgage on it. So it put us in a really awkward position. Had we bought the house, and the only way you would have been able to buy that house would have been for cash, but it would have bankrupted us immediately. So we were pushed into a corner, and we ended up buying our rental. So we're back to square one. We'd packed all our stuff up, ready to move out, thrown loads of stuff away, including lots from my workshop, and now we're back to where we started from. So it's a case of rebuilding everything up. So, yep, the answer to that is no. I don't have a new workshop, I don't have a new house, and I have nowhere to build anything. But there we are. So thank you for that. Simon Bowser, I think this might be the second question from you. Or not, I don't know. From what we've seen, you have built both an altered Brohosky box and a Hoodlin box. Have you thought about building any of the other boxes? You know, the original Brohosky, the Newbie, Tommy, Ollie Jones, etc. I guess you're talking about 13th scale TARDISes. Yes, I have. To be honest, I don't see the point anymore. I might build myself a Hoodlin box because I've got parts for that. I just can't be bothered. I've done it once. I can't be bothered to do it again. I might get around to that. I've got myself a refit box done, a Brohosky refit box. I've never finished that. I might again finish that. And I might do a Hartnell box, but to be honest, I don't see the point. I'd like to build them at full size. That's been the dream. That's what I've always wanted to do, is build one of every TARDIS at full size. Unfortunately, when you get to the new series, in particular Matt Smith, after his first box, which looked considerably different, while it was dimensionally more or less the same as the previous one, from that moment on, all those other boxes, and he had about, I don't know, 4 or 5 different variations on the same theme. They all look sort of similar. So that's kind of kiboshed it. So Matt Smith's later boxes are very much like Capaldi's boxes. So the idea of building one of every box no longer is going to happen. I'll just probably build one for each Doctor and have done with it. But in terms of models, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I'd like to, but again, it boils down to space. But in terms of character options, it's unlikely. Carl Elwell and the Toy Box of Rassilon asked very similar questions. What's your most favourite prop that you've built to date, and is there anything that you'd like to build in the future? The favourite prop to date that I've built would no doubt be the full-size TARDIS that I built with my father, purely for sentimental reasons. I haven't seen it for over 10 years. It's not quite finished. It needs the glazing and the pull-to-open graphics to be put on, and it needs the weathering to be done to complete it. My father, unfortunately, has never seen it complete, but it was nearly complete. Yeah, I'd love to finish that off. In terms of, is there anything in the future that I'd like to build? If you're talking about just Doctor Who stuff, yeah, loads of stuff. I mean, those who know me know I've got absolutely boxes and cupboards and storage full of parts for full-size props and models. I mean, I want to do a load of studio-scale models, replicas, using all the original parts. So I've got a couple of space stations, an underwater base, couple of Cyberman pieces, Cyberman spaceships, Dalek spaceships. Oh God, the list goes on. I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of drawings, all noting how these things were built. So, I mean, look, I'm never ever going to build all of these things. So I'll probably end up, I've got a bunch of NSDs that need to be built. I promised my wife for her 30th birthday, which was 13 years ago, that I would build her an NSD. I've not done that yet, and I really must. Got a bunch of canines to finish. I've got a TARDIS to restore. I've got another TARDIS to finish. I've got another one to cast out. I've got loads of stuff. So yeah, there's loads of things I'd love to do. But as always, it's always down to space and money. Anything I build always costs. The most annoying factor about all this is the number 300. Every time I look at even the barest bones of the project, it always totals up to at least £300, and I just can't afford that. In terms of space, again, studio scale models are huge. They're usually at least 2 foot across, even bigger in some cases, and I just don't know where to put them. I've run out of room already. So yeah, there are loads of things I'd like to do, but it's all about space and money. If I had something like a Patreon, or people wanted to donate money, but I hate the whole idea of e-begging, so that's why I end up doing very small projects. But if I could somehow raise money, maybe even sell some products, but again, that costs money to make those. But if I could sell some products, that could perhaps fund more videos, but it's just a bit of a risk at the moment. But yeah, to answer your questions, there are loads of things I'd like to do. Toy Box of Rassilon. Oh yeah, this is a question I'm slightly dreading. How does it feel that you single-handedly influence hundreds of people to take up this hobby, and possibly this profession in some cases? My granddad and dad are huge model builder fans, and I've taken that from them. I lost it for a while, but then you sparked in my mind, and I've learned a lot of stuff from it. Look, it goes on very pleasantly like that. Hundreds of people? I don't think so. I mean, look, I'm just here to share stuff. If people want to take stuff from what I say, then brilliant. If it inspires just one person to go off and build something, that it makes me happy. I'd rather people be out making something or being creative than just vegging out in front of a computer or watching the television. I just really enjoy building stuff, and I think it makes people engage with their brain. It engages their creativity, and if people want to do that, then that is just brilliant. But thank you very much for saying that. Have I inspired people? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I get comments from people saying it sometimes, but is that truly the case? I don't know. That's for you to decide. But thank you so much for saying it. I truly do appreciate that. And yes, it does brighten my day, because you did sort of say that at the bottom of your question. Okay. Oh dear, here we come to Isaac Hegland's questions. Now, I know about this one. I actually know Isaac. Some of your questions are a bit loaded. Which one of your videos have you had the most fun making? I enjoy making all of the videos, but they are difficult to do. Purely because when making them, the first thing you're doing is concentrating on the thing you're making. So, you want to be focused on that. But because I'm filming myself, I have to think about camera angles. Now, in this production, I've just got a fixed angle and that's all I'm doing. But you want to sort of have a variety of images, a variety of angles, and that can be distracting sometimes. So filming myself, because I film everything on my own, and usually it's blind. It's only in recent months I've got myself an external monitor so I can actually see what I'm doing. It just makes everything take about 10 times longer. So it draws the process out. So each video that I do has its own merit, but it's it can be interesting for one reason. But in terms of the most memorable video, it would actually be the video for your Cyberman head, for a couple of reasons. And I'll do it in reverse order. it was the editing of that video. I sort of shot it in a way where the software that I use to edit I thought was the full version, but I quickly found out it wasn't. And so there are certain things, certain cuts, certain applications that it doesn't allow you to do. And of course I didn't know that at the time, so things like time stretching, time remapping, I can't even do masking on it. So I've got to think of out-of-the-box ways to force the program to do it, and that's a bugger. You know, what would ordinarily be click, 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 for me can take an hour just to get that right. So there was a sequence that I shot of me painting up the head, and I sort of panned around it, and then the speed changed and then shot, and then it went very slow, and then it went very quickly. I had to really, really go frame by frame with that and make multiple copies of the same footage and then adjust their speeds and adjust the cuts. And I had to make sure that, you know, I would cut just as things would come into line with each other. So that made the whole job a lot more difficult than it should really be. And if I had the proper full program, that would just be a couple of clicks. So I really enjoyed that for that reason. But what makes that video, for me, very memorable is that it's the video that nearly killed me. Now, that may seem very over-dramatic, and Isaac will know this. When he came to pick the head up, because he came in person with his dad, I wasn't feeling very well. I was feeling extremely unwell, and I told him about it. Anyway, after he left, over the next week, my health really started to decline. My breathing became laboured. I felt like I had a javelin or three rammed through my body. My internals were definitely being crushed. I was starting to cough up blood, which at first I hid from my wife and kids. I didn't want to worry them. But I remember sitting in this very sofa one day, sort of almost in and out of consciousness. I know I was blacking out. And I said to my kids, and said to my wife in particular, look, here's my stuff, this is what to do with it. And I started divvying it up. I said, you know, get rid of those, you can sell that, give these prop pieces to these guys and these toys to those guys. And it really, really got bad. You know, and I genuinely didn't think I was going to make it. And I was taken into hospital a couple of times, but quickly came out. And the final time I went into the hospital, I remember just getting there was difficult. You know, I could barely walk. And I got in there and into the A&E, and the doctors there took one look at me and immediately put me on oxygen and immediately stuck all these IVs into my wrist, and they had these bags. I don't know if it was IV or what, you know, what it was, whether it was saline, but they were squeezing these bags into my arms. I went for CT scans and X-rays and all sorts of stuff, and the doctor looked at me and said, if you'd not come in today, you wouldn't have been here tomorrow. Which was a bit of an eye-opener. It's not really, because I sort of guessed it, but, you know, for my kids and wife I went in. But I hate hospitals. So, did not want to say at all, but they said they have to keep me in, and I sat there bartering with them. How about if I come back and then come back in the morning or leave? And, you know, and they wouldn't, they said they wanted me in, because they had to monitor me very closely. I was like this close from going on to the intensive care unit. But they gave me some antibiotics for one of the problems that I had. And I'm very good with the antibiotics. I know pretty much within an hour of the first shot whether it's working or not. And I could see it was. So I calculated that 2 more shots would be enough. So throughout that first night, I was wide awake, I was in pain, I couldn't sleep. And I just thought, screw this, I'm leaving. So after the 3rd infusion that I was given, I said, I'm leaving. And they didn't want me to, and they said, look, if you leave, there is every possibility that the antibiotics that we're giving you won't be strong enough and that you could still relapse and die. And I said, look, it feels good at the moment, I'm willing to take that risk, but I cannot stay in this hospital. So they made me sign a release form that if I did cark over and die, my estate wouldn't sue them. But I was about 60% confident that that wouldn't happen, so I left. So that's why your video in particular sticks out in my head. The second question is, can I speak some Deutsch fluent? Absolutely not. I can understand Deutsch better than I can speak it. I get very embarrassed about my speaking of German because I'm just not confident with it. I can understand it. I can't read it terribly well. But I can understand a lot of what's being said, to the point that my father-in-law, if he's telling jokes or talking about something privately, doesn't do it in front of me. Excuse me, your final question is, which you damn well know the answer to this. Who is your least favourite Doctor? So get your pitchforks ready, folks, because somebody's going to have a different opinion to you. Who is my least favourite Doctor? If you're talking about new series, it's without question David Tennant. I don't count Jodie Whittaker because, despite the fact I don't like her as an actress anyway, I've not seen her in the new series at all. No, I haven't. I tell you, I've seen one of hers and she was rubbish in that. But no, David Tennant, I just can't stand it. As a person, as an actor, I find him absolutely fine. I just can't stand the 10th Doctor at all. And he was one of the reasons that really put me off with the new series. Too self-aware, I felt. I didn't like the costume. I didn't like David Tennant's choice of accent. Didn't particularly like the stories. I mean, there are 4 words that really put me off about the new series, and that's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. I mean, to me that talks down to the audience. It treats them with a bit of contempt. It's just nonsense. I really don't like that at all. I have nothing wrong with David Tennant at all. I've seen him in other things, and he's absolutely fine. But I just don't like his Doctor in the slightest. To be fair, though, we've got to compare and contrast. Let's go over to the classic series. If you can hear stuff, it's my wife walking around upstairs. Classic series, I think... Excuse me, I need a drink. John Pertwee. Can't stand John Pertwee as the 3rd Doctor. Again, I've met him. I very much enjoyed him as Wurzel Gummidge. In fact, when I used to watch Wurzel Gummidge, I didn't even know that John had played the Doctor before. But yeah, I just really, really disliked the John Pertwee era. Like David Tennant, I thought he was not right for the role. But I'm fully aware that people like these guys, and it might be their favourite Doctor. But to me, I just can't take to them. So, like I said, get your pitchforks, but do remember there are people who have different opinions to you, so don't take it personally. I'm sure I'm going to get thumbs down for this. But I'm a big boy, I can take it. But yeah, John Pertwee is my least favourite of the classics. Tennant, I can't stand in the new. And again, I'm not going to talk about Whittaker because, I'm just not. So moving on. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you for that very loaded question that you knew the answer to. Jason O'Toole. If you could build any prop from all of the Whoniverse, what would be at the top of your list? And you also ask about my health. I've already answered that. I'm getting fairly good, but thank you for asking. So any props from the Whoniverse? Well, if I could only be one, it would be the TARDIS. So far, I've said about the building one of every TARDIS, but the one that I grew up with was this one. I built this one here, by the way, when I was 14, out of scraps. It would be a full fiberglass version of the Tommy Hardy Jones. Not sure when it would be, possibly Davison era, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, more than likely it'd be one of the variations of the Tommy Hardy Jones prop. So that's the end of the general questions.